Go and look at your hydrangea this evening. Not now, this evening, when the heat has come off it. If the leaves are limp at noon and firm again by dusk, that plant is not thirsty. And if you have been standing over it with a hose every afternoon because you thought it was, we need to talk about that. But that is not the thing I brought you here for. Here is the thing. Next summer's flowers are being decided this month. Right now, in August, while the plant looks half finished and most people have stopped paying attention to it. The buds that will open for you next June are forming inside that shrub over the next 6 weeks, and almost everything you do to a hydrangea in August either protects them or destroys them. That is why people get a beautiful hydrangea one year and a green bush with no flowers the next, and cannot work out what changed. Nothing changed in the spring. Something went wrong in the August before it, and by the time you notice, you are 11 months too late to fix it. So what does a hydrangea need in August? Water. Deep, slow, at the roots, and consistent. That is the answer, and I am not going to make you wait 18 minutes for it. But water is only half the job, and the other half is what you stop doing. There are 3 things most people do to a tired-looking hydrangea in August, all of them kindly meant, and every one of them costs next year's bloom. I killed a season's worth of stock learning the first one, and I will tell you about that before we are done. Let us take it in order. First, and before anything else, work out which hydrangea you actually have. I know that sounds like a delay. It is not. Every piece of advice after this depends on it, and about half the bad advice you will read online is somebody applying the rules for one type to a completely different plant. There are 4 you are likely to own, and you can tell them apart standing in front of them. Big leaf hydrangea, the classic. Big glossy leaves with a coarse toothed edge and flowers in either a round mop head or a flat lace cap. These are the blue and pink ones. This is the one where August matters most, and it is the most common one in American gardens. Panicle hydrangea, cone-shaped flower heads, pointed rather than round, opening white or lime and often aging to pink or dusty red by autumn. Smaller, rougher leaves. Limelight is a panicle. Very tough, very forgiving. Smooth hydrangea, round white heads on a plant that dies back low each winter. Annabelle is the one everybody has. Heart-shaped, thin, matte leaves. Oak leaf hydrangea. You cannot mistake it. The leaves are shaped like oak leaves, big and lobed, and they turn deep wine red in autumn. Cone-shaped white flowers going papery pink. Now, here's why it matters, and this is the single most useful sentence in this whole video. Big leaf and oak leaf make next year's flower buds on this year's wood in late summer. Panicle and smooth make theirs on new growth next spring. So if you have big leaf or oak leaf, the buds are forming in that shrub right now, and everything I say about not cutting applies absolutely. If you have panicle or smooth, you have a great deal more room, because the plant will build next year's flowers from scratch in the spring. Most people have big leaf. Most people also treat it like a panicle. That is where the trouble starts. There is a 5th thing you might own, and it deserves its own paragraph, because it confuses everybody, including people who ought to know better. Reblooming big leaf hydrangeas. Endless summer is the one you will have heard of. These were bred to flower on both old wood and new. So they set buds in late summer like an ordinary big leaf, and then if those buds get killed over winter, they can still throw a later flush from new spring growth. That sounds like it solves the problem. In practice, it half solves it. The old wood flowers are the early, generous ones, and the new wood flowers come later, smaller and fewer. So if you lose the old wood buds, you still get something, but you get a disappointing something, which means the August rules apply to a rebloomer exactly as they do to any other big leaf. Water it, do not feed it, do not cut it. The rebloom is an insurance policy, not a license. You can tell you have one if it flowered twice this year, or if it flowered late on stems that were clearly this season's growth. If you are not sure, treat it as a plain big leaf and you will not go wrong. Second, the watering, properly. A hydrangea has a shallow, fibrous root system that sits in the top foot of soil, and it carries a very large amount of leaf for the size of that root. The name itself comes from water. It is a plant built to drink. In August, you are looking at about an inch of water a week, and in a hot, dry week, closer to an inch and a half. If you have it in a pot, that could mean every single day, but the amount matters less than the manner. Water deep and water seldom. One long, slow soak beats 5 light sprinklings every time, and it is not close. A light sprinkle wets the top inch and evaporates by lunchtime. And worse, it teaches the roots to stay up near the surface where they will cook. A long soak sends water down 8 or 10 inches, and the roots follow it down to where the ground stays cool. Put the hose at the base on a trickle and leave it 20 minutes. A soaker hose laid round the plant and left an hour is better still. What you want is water going into soil, not onto leaves. Water in the morning if you can. Evening is acceptable. Midday is mostly wasted to evaporation. And keep the leaves dry. Hydrangea leaves sitting wet overnight are how you get leaf spot, and we will come back to that. How do you know if it worked? Push your finger into the soil 3 inches down, or a trowel if your ground is hard. If it is damp down there, you are fine. If it is dry 3 inches down, the plant is genuinely short and you have not been giving it enough at a time. Pots are a different animal, and I want to say so plainly, because a hydrangea in a container in August is the easiest one in the garden to lose. A pot has a limited amount of soil and every side of it is exposed to the sun. On a hot day, the whole root ball can dry through in a matter of hours, and once a peat-based compost has gone properly dry, it turns hydrophobic, which means water runs down the inside of the pot and straight out of the bottom without wetting anything. You water it, you see water come out, and you think you have done the job. 2 things for pots: water until it runs out of the bottom, then wait 10 minutes and do it again. So the second lot goes into compost that is already damp enough to accept it. And if it has gone bone dry, stand the whole pot in a bucket or a tray of water for half an hour and let it draw up from below. That is the only reliable way to re-wet a dried out root ball. Move it into afternoon shade for the rest of the summer if you can, and plan to get it into the ground in October, because a hydrangea in a pot is always going to be a plant you are rescuing rather than growing. Third, and this is the one nearly everybody gets wrong, wilting in the afternoon is not thirst. On a hot August day, a hydrangea will droop. The leaves go soft, the whole plant looks defeated, and every instinct you have says give it water. What is actually happening is that the leaf is losing moisture to the air faster than the root can pull it up, and the plant is closing down and folding to protect itself. It is a heat response, not a drought response. Wilting is the plant coping, not the plant failing. The test is dawn. Go out first thing before the sun is properly on it. If the plant has come back up firm and glossy overnight, it had enough water and it was simply hot. Leave it alone. If it is still limp at 6 in the morning, then it is genuinely dry, and then you soak it. I want you to hear what the mistake costs, because it is not harmless. People see the afternoon droop, water heavily, see it recover by evening, and conclude the water fixed it. It did not. The evening cool fixed it. So they do it again the next day and the next, and by September, that plant is sitting in permanently sodden ground with roots that cannot breathe. Hydrangea roots want moisture, but they will rot in standing wet, and root rot in a hydrangea looks like drought. Yellow leaves, wilting, dieback. So the gardener waters more. I have seen people water a hydrangea to death while absolutely convinced they were saving it. Check at dawn. That one habit is worth more than anything else in this video. Fourth, stop feeding. Now and until spring. If you have been feeding through the summer, your last application should have been around the start of July. If you have not fed it since then, do not start now, whatever the plant looks like. The reasoning is straightforward once you see it. Nitrogen tells a plant to make leaf and stem. Feed a hydrangea in August and you get a flush of soft green growth in September. Growth that has no time to harden off before the first frosts. That soft wood is exactly the wood that carries next year's flower buds on a big leaf, and it will be killed back over winter, and you will lose the buds with it. You also get a plant putting energy into leaves at precisely the moment you want it putting energy into buds and roots. The temptation is real. A hydrangea in mid-August looks tired. Blooms browning at the edges, leaves a bit dull, the whole thing past its best. Every instinct says feed it, perk it up. Do not. That tired look is a plant doing exactly what it is meant to do at this time of year, which is stop growing outward and start banking for next season. If it genuinely is hungry, and by that I mean pale leaves and poor growth all season rather than just an August slump, note it down and feed it in April, not now. That was my expensive lesson, and it was a full block of stock. I had 200 big leaf hydrangeas in the field, 3-year plants, meant for sale the following summer. It was a dry August, and I was busy at the other end of the ground getting an order out. I looked at that block, saw it looking tired and thin, and I put a nitrogen feed through it to bring it on, and I did not water it properly through the drought either. They grew beautifully, soft green growth right through September on plants that were already stressed and short of water. The next June, I had 200 healthy leafy shrubs and almost no flowers. You cannot sell a hydrangea with no flowers on it. I carried that block another full year. I had fed a plant that was asking for a drink. That is the whole of it. Fifth, do not prune. Not now, not in September, not in October. For big leaf and oak leaf, this is absolute. Every cut you make from now until the plant flowers next summer removes flower buds, because the buds are on the wood you would be cutting. There is no clever way around it and no exception worth the risk. That includes tidying. It includes cutting it back because it has got too big for the spot. It includes taking off the odd wayward stem that annoys you. All of it is next year's flowers. If a big leaf hydrangea is genuinely too large for where it is, the time to deal with that is immediately after it flowers in early summer, and you have missed it for this year. Make a note and do it next June. If a stem is dead, that is different. Dead is dead, and you can take it out at any time. You will know it is dead because it is brown and brittle right through and snaps rather than bends. Green and flexible means alive, and alive means leave it, even if it looks bare. Panicle and smooth hydrangeas are the exception, and this is where knowing your type pays. Those flower on new wood, so you can cut them back hard. But the right time for that is late winter or very early spring, not August. Leave the cone heads standing over winter. They look well with frost on them, and they give the crown some shelter. Sixth, deadheading and how to do it without doing damage. A spent hydrangea head is brown, papery, and dry to the touch. Taking those off is fine, and it tidies the plant, but there is a right depth and a wrong one. The wrong way is to take the shears and cut down the stem to somewhere that looks neat. That is pruning, and we just covered pruning. The right way is to follow the flower stem down to the first full pair of healthy leaves beneath the head and cut just above them. That is usually only 3 or 4 inches of stem. Below that pair of leaves is where your buds are sitting. Do it with secateurs, one head at a time, looking at what you are cutting, not with shears and not quickly. And honestly, on big leaf hydrangeas, the best thing is often to leave the old heads on entirely until spring. They are not doing any harm. Dead flower heads catch snow and give a little frost protection to the buds directly beneath them, which is the part of the plant most likely to be damaged over winter. Cut them off in March when you can see the new growth coming and you know what is alive. I leave mine. It is less work and the plant does better for it. Seventh, mulch and what it is actually for. 2 to 3 inches of mulch around a hydrangea in August is worth real money to you. Shredded bark, leaf mold, compost, pine straw, whatever you have. It is not decoration and it is not feeding. It is doing 2 specific jobs. It slows evaporation so the water you put on stays in the soil rather than leaving in the afternoon heat, and it keeps the soil temperature down around those shallow roots. Bare soil in full August sun gets genuinely hot in the top few inches, which is exactly where a hydrangea keeps its roots. Spread it out to the drip line, which is the width of the branches, because that is roughly where the roots reach. One rule: pull it back 2 or 3 inches clear of the stems. Mulch heaped against the base of a woody plant holds moisture against the bark and rots the crown. You want a clear collar of bare soil right at the middle. This is the same mistake people make with trees, and it kills more shrubs than any pest. Do not use fresh grass clippings. They mat down into a slimy layer that water runs straight off, and they are high in nitrogen, which we have just agreed we do not want in August. Eighth, brown edges on the leaves and what they are telling you. By late August, a lot of hydrangeas have crisped edges on the leaves, and it is worth knowing which of 3 things you are looking at, because the fixes are different. If the browning is on the leaves most exposed to the afternoon sun, and the shaded side of the plant is clean, that is scorch. Too much direct sun and not enough water to keep up with it. Big leaf hydrangeas want morning sun and afternoon shade. If yours is in blazing all-day sun in a hot region, that is a sighting problem. And the fix is to move it, but not now. Move it in October when it is going dormant. For now, mulch it and water it deep. If the browning is a dry, crispy edge all around the leaf, fairly even, and the plant has been fed recently, that is fertilizer burn. Salts in the soil, pulling water back out of the roots. The fix is to water it heavily. Several long soaks to flush the salts down past the root zone, and then leave it alone. If it is brown or purple spots with a defined edge, often with a yellow halo, spreading from the lower leaves upward, that is leaf spot, and it is a fungus. That comes from wet leaves and poor airflow. Pick off the worst leaves and bin them. Do not compost them. Water at the base only. Do not spray anything in August heat, because most fungicides will burn a stressed leaf worse than the disease would. None of the three is going to kill an established hydrangea this year, but scorch and spot both weaken the plant going into bud set, which brings us back round to next June again. 9th. Leave the color alone until autumn. Every August, somebody decides their pink hydrangea should be blue and goes and buys aluminium sulfate. Two things. First, it only works on big leaf hydrangeas. Panicle, smooth, and oak leaf hydrangeas will not change color whatever you put on them, because their white and cream flowers do not carry the pigment that responds. You can spend all year treating an Annabelle and it will stay white. Second, it is slow. Changing soil chemistry around a shrub takes months, and treating in August will do nothing to this year's flowers, which are already formed and colored. It will not even do much for next year unless you keep at it. The right time to start is autumn or early spring, and it is a long campaign, not a treatment. Blue wants acid soil, roughly 5.5 or below. Pink wants it nearer 6.5 or 7. Get a cheap soil test first so you know where you are starting from, because in a lot of the country, the soil chemistry is simply going to win, and you will be fighting it forever. My honest advice, and take it for what it is worth after 40 years of growing these things for other people, grow the color your ground wants to give you. A healthy pink hydrangea is worth more than a struggling blue one. 10th. What August looks like when you have done it right. This is worth saying because the plant will not look like a triumph, and I do not want you thinking you have failed. A well-managed hydrangea in late August looks slightly tired. The flower heads have gone from their true color to something duller and papery, often greenish or dusty pink. The leaves are darker and coarser than they were in June. Growth has more or less stopped. It looks like a plant that has finished its work. That is correct. That is what banking looks like. What is going on underneath is that the plant is putting sugars into its roots and forming next year's buds in the leaf axils along the stems. If you look closely at a big leaf hydrangea in September, you can sometimes see them, small tight swellings where leaf meets stem. If instead your plant is throwing out bright, soft, new green growth in late August, something has pushed it, and that is usually feed or heavy pruning earlier in the summer. Note it and do not repeat it next year. 11th, and this one is for those of you whose hydrangea gave you nothing at all this summer. If you have had a green leafy shrub and no flowers this year, the cause is almost always one of 4 things, and you can work out which by thinking back. Did somebody prune it? Late summer, autumn, or spring tidying on a big leaf takes the buds off. This includes a well-meaning relative, a landscaper, or a hedge trimmer going over the top of it. This is the most common cause by a distance. Was there a hard late frost? A big leaf pushes its buds early, and a sharp frost in April after a mild March will kill the swollen buds outright while leaving the plant perfectly healthy. Nothing you could have done, and it will flower again next year. Is it in deep shade? Big leaf hydrangeas want morning sun. A plant under a dense tree or on a north wall will grow lush green leaves and set very few buds, year after year, and look entirely healthy while doing it. Or was last August dry, or was it fed late? Which is everything we have just been talking about. Work out which one it was. If it was pruning or feeding, that is in your hands, and this year will be different. If it was frost or shade, that is a sighting decision, and October is when you act on it. What I would not do is respond to a no-flower year by feeding it harder. That is the reflex, and it makes the following year worse, and I have watched people ride that loop for 3 seasons running. 12th, and then I will let you go. What happens after this month? September, keep watering if it is dry. The bud set is still finishing. This is the most commonly dropped ball, because people stop watering the moment the weather cools, even though the ground can still be bone dry. October, this is when you move a hydrangea if it needs moving, and when you can plant a new one. Warm soil, cool air, no top growth to support. It is the best planting month of the year for shrubs, and nobody uses it. November, once the ground is cold, mulch deeply over the crown in colder regions, zones 5 and 6 especially. The buds nearest the tips are the ones that get killed by winter, and those are the ones that carry your best flowers. March, cut out anything dead, take the old heads off, and see what you have got. June, flowers, and you will have earned them in August. So, one thing to take away: water deep and stop helping. Almost every hydrangea I have seen fail to flower was owned by somebody who was trying hard. Trimming, feeding, watering a little every day. The plant did not need managing. It needed a long drink and to be left alone to get on with next year. Tell me in the comments what yours is doing and which of the 4 types you have got, because half of you are going to find out you have been following the wrong rules entirely. If you want more straight-talking garden advice that helps you work with your plants instead of against them, subscribe to Old Amos. A hydrangea keeps no secrets. It just answers a year late.